We're now going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for the national anthem.
Present colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Carry colors. Ready, cut. Left, face. Forward, march.
Thank you. Be seated.
Afternoon, folks. Welcome to the National Quilt Museum. My name is Frank Bennett. I'm the CEO of the museum. Well, we got a lot of police officers here. I feel safe. I'd like to give a couple thank yous as we get started here. First, please give a warm applause to Liz Hammonds for that national anthem. Also, it takes hundreds of hours to make this event happen between the Quilts of Valor staff and the Quilt Museum staff. Please give all of them a round of applause. If you're a veteran in the room, if you please stand for a moment. Please give every one of them a round of applause. One of the blessings I get for working here at the National Quilt Museum is the opportunity to amplify the work of people and organizations that deserve a wider audience. Every April, I do a speech for the quilting community that goes out by video, and there's a live audience about the future of quilting. And in April 2018, Sue Wright came up to me after that speech and said, I think our two organizations should partner. What she did not know is that Quilts of Valor was already one of my favorite organizations, which is why, with great honor, I was very, very privileged in October 2019 to be able to say that the National Quilt Museum will be in the future a national partner with Quilts of Valor Foundation. The work that everyone at the Quilts of Valor Foundation, staff and volunteers do is a testament to the limitless abilities and spirit of the human heart when we want to achieve something. If I were to just come to you and say that an organization with fewer than 10 full-time employees have awarded over 230,000 quilts, you would have said it was fiction. If I had said 2,300 quilts, you would have said it was fiction. I have had the opportunity over the last couple years to meet several hundred of the people who take on the Herculean task of awarding these quilts around the country. And the only word I would use to explain what they do and why it's possible is passion. If you get an opportunity to talk to a Quilts of Valor staff member or volunteer, please ask them if they're willing to tell you their story of why they are so passionate about this organization. If they do, 3 things I guarantee you will occur. First, you will remember the story forever. Second, it will become one of the stories you tell other people. And third, by the end of it, I guarantee that neither one of you will have dry eyes. In October 2019, I was given the opportunity to give the keynote address at the Quilts of Valor annual event, which was in Grand Rapids, which I was quite humbled to do. Now, I should point out, I've given a few speeches along the way, and I've kind of seen anything that could happen during a speech. Once gave a speech in California where an earthquake started. 2 different occasions in the same month, I was giving a speech in which the electricity went out. So I thought I could deal with just about anything, but at this speech, at the Quilts of Valor Foundation ceremony, I had a moment where you would have thought that I was 10 years old giving my first speech ever. Toward the end of this speech, an honored veteran and advocate for Quilts of Valor named Harvey Mayhill stood up and made me an honorary member of the Old Glory Quilts of Valor group that he runs. Thank you so much, Harvey. Harvey could not come today, but your kindness toward me absolutely has become part of my identity, and I really appreciate what you've done. Thank you to every single person who does anything to make the Quilts of Valor Foundation possible. But more importantly, thank you to the veterans that we are honoring today. Thank you for your service, thank you for your sacrifice, and thank you for protecting the freedoms that make my life possible. I hate to contradict Harvey, but I'm not one of you, not even remotely 1% close. However, it is absolutely my privilege to host this event where we're going to honor some true American heroes. Please welcome Quilts of Valor Board Treasurer, Maggie Klenke.
Hi, and welcome. We're so glad that you're here today. I am Maggie Klenke, and actually I'm the secretary of the board as opposed to the treasurer. They don't trust me with the money, so that's okay. But I'm here representing about 11,000 Quilts of Valor Foundation members and volunteers all over the country. And I joined the Quilts of Valor in honor of my father, who was a submariner during World War II, and my husband, who served in Vietnam. I am honored to be asked to speak to you today, and I'm humbled to stand before those of you who served our country, performed your duty, and fought for the freedoms that we enjoy today. We are eternally grateful to each of you, and thank you for your service and your sacrifice, and the sacrifices of your families. Quilts of Valor is a national foundation that was founded in 2003 by a Blue Star mom, Catherine Roberts. For those of you who may not be familiar with the term Blue Star, it identifies mothers, stepmothers, grandmothers, foster mothers, female legal guardians of children who have served in the military, guard, or reserves, or children who are veterans. Gold Star refers to those who have lost a child who have served our country. Catherine's son was deployed in Iraq, and she felt 10 seconds away from panic most of the time. One night she dreamed of a post-deployment warrior sitting on the side of his bed, struggling with his wartime demons at 2:00 in the morning. In the next scene in the dream, he was wrapped in a quilt, which comforted him to fend off those war demons that troubled him. From this vision, the Quilts of Valor Foundation began. Our mission is to bring comfort and healing to the service members and veterans who've been touched by war. Our foundation represents one human being reaching out and touching another without judgment, but with acceptance and acknowledgement of service to our nation. Each quilt is an expression of gratitude meant to thank and comfort you. We honor you for leaving all you hold dear to serve, whether in a time of crisis or in a time of peace. Our quilters know that freedom is not free. The cost of our freedom is the dedication of lives of warriors like you, and each quilt is meant to say thank you for your service and to comfort you and to bring healing where it may be needed. A Quilt of Valor is awarded. It is not just handed out. It is not a charity quilt, and it is not a blanket. It is made up of 3 layers. The top of the quilt, with its many colors, shapes, and fabrics, represents the communities and the many individuals who we are. The batting is the filler in the center of the quilt and provides its warmth, and it represents our hope that this quilt will bring you warmth, comfort, peace, and healing to the individual who receives it. The backing is the strength that supports the other layers, and it represents the strength of the recipient, the support of the families, the communities, and our nation. Each stitch that holds the layers together represents the love, gratitude, and sometimes the tears of the quilt makers. Each quilt is formed by loving hands, one piece at a time. It may be fashioned by 1 or 2 hands, or it may come together through the combined efforts by many quilters at all different skill levels. All of us quilters want you to know that through our quilts, you are forever in our hearts. All of the quilts awarded here today were constructed from patterns featured in the 50 States Salute Book. On behalf of the Quilts of Valor Foundation, we thank each of you for allowing us to present you with a Quilt of Valor. Now, Nancy Can, Kentucky Quilt of Valor Foundation Kentucky State Coordinator, and Sue Reich, of our foundation's president, will present the overview of the award ceremony.
I would just like to say that the quilts that are on exhibit here today, thanks to the American Quilters Society, traveled over 7,000 miles across the eastern part of our nation. The quilts went to Daytona Beach, Florida, to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to Paducah here twice, to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and to Charleston, South Carolina. Over 100,000 quilters saw these quilts. And they traveled with AQS to bring awareness and support for Quilts of Valor. And I would like to thank Liz, who is an employee of Quilts of Valor. She's their Director of Education. And on behalf of Quilts of Valor, I would like to thank all of you. We are, as Maggie said, 11,000 strong, but we are here because of you and of your commitment and your dedication to our nation. So I'm going to turn it over to Nancy Can. Nancy is our state coordinator here in Kentucky, and she's going to take the program from here. Thank you.
The shorter we are, the harder it is to speak. So ladies and gentlemen, this morning it is our privilege to honor 23 veterans with their Quilts of Valor. A Quilt of Valor is awarded with a hug. This quilt comes not only from me, but from everyone in the Quilts of Valor family. I would like to introduce to you the members that are going to assist me with this award ceremony this morning. So if you just raise your hand when I call your name. Jan Copeland is down from Illinois to participate with us. Fran Randolph is from Georgia. And the local Kentucky family, Nancy Beecher, Phyllis Myers, Vicki Ayers, Marcia Hardin, Carolyn Elliott, and Arnold Krause. Each recipient will receive an award certificate along with his or her quilt. Carolyn is going to come forward and read the certificate for you. At the end of the ceremony, there is a package. It will be out at the front desk for each veteran recipient that will have your personal certificate and some other pieces of information that are important to you. Carolyn?
The certificate reads, the veteran's name, branch of service, and years of service. Then the certificate goes on to say the Quilts of Valor Foundation wishes to recognize you for your service to our nation. We consider it a privilege to honor you. Though we may never know the extent of your sacrifices and service to protect and defend the United States of America, as an expression of gratitude, we award this Quilt of Valor.
As I call each veteran forward to wrap his quilt, there's a little black mark on the floor here. We sort of identified that because it's easier for people to photograph and get a good center of where we are. A Quilt of Valor is awarded with a hug. If a hug is uncomfortable for you, if you would just put your hand out for a handshake, or just let the gals know that you don't want to hug, we're good with that. We understand that. I ask you to join me in honoring the following individuals with their awards of a Quilt of Valor. I can't read it down. Can I get it down here so it's large? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Eric Abbott. Eric enlisted into the military in October 15th, 2008 as a heavy construction mechanic. He went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and to advanced individual training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Eric deployed to Iraq in 2011 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom to assist with the final turnover to the local government. The transition from military-civilian life was easy for him due to the structure of the police department. It has continued to give him purpose and the drive to serve. Eric, the ladies are going to show your quilt to you first, and then they'll show it to our guests, and then they'll wrap you. Nathan joined the Army Reserve in 2005. After returning home, he began working for the Paducah Police Department in 2008. Nathan continued to serve our nation as an Army Reservist until 2012. I will explain to you part of the process of happening. These quilts are being taken down from the wall as they're being awarded, and so there's a process of bringing them forward. Just bear with us, please. I'm thinking we need to solicit some taller volunteers. James Arndt. James went into the service at the age of 17. He joined just a few days after his 17th birthday as a senior in high school. After graduation, he entered active duty and celebrated his 18th birthday during his advanced individual training at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Upon graduation, he was sent to Germany and was on a plane over the Atlantic Ocean when Desert Storm began. By the time he landed, the conflict was coming to a swift victory. He was then sent to Karlsruhe, Germany, for the next 2 years. He returned home to the United States, where he completed his service with the 7th Special Forces Group under the assignment to Special Forces Command Center in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. James transitioned from active duty back to civilian life after completing 3 years of active duty service. He looks back on his service time with fond memories and an appreciation for the discipline and work ethic the Army instilled in him. James stated, "I am proud to be an American, and I am proud to have served my country." Christopher Baxter. Christopher served in the Navy Mobile Construction Battalion 1 from 2000 to 2005. He served in Iraq and Africa during that time in Operation Enduring Freedom in combat support of the Marines and Special Operations Command out of Gulfport, Mississippi. Christopher was heavily involved in the cleanup effort from August to September 2005. In September, Christopher and his wife Nicole moved to Paducah, and he applied with the Paducah Police Department shortly after. In 2006, he was offered the position of police officer and left for the police academy in May. He has served as patrolman, detective, sergeant, and now captain with the Paducah Police Department. Christopher and his wife Nicole have been married for 15 years, and they have a son, Clayton, who is 9, and a daughter, Allison, who is 6. Travis Counts. Travis stated that he feels the training and experiences in the Navy helped him become a positive influence in his service to his community. The impact the military had on his future endeavors were vast. The different cultures he saw and lived within helped mold him into the person he is today. He feels that the core values of honor, courage, and commitment are still utilized in his daily life. The money he accrued helped pay for his college tuition. The dedication to duty and job prioritization were valuable skills to help transition from the military to a college life in conjunction with his military reserve duties and the becoming of a Paducah police officer. David Wayne Downing Jr. Wayne served on the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower as a fireman apprentice. His duties included doing preventative maintenance on many different electrical systems as well as repairing any damaged or broken equipment. He also had to be trained to stand load center rover watch, and flight deck lightning watch. His transition back to civilian life was a little rocky because finding a job was difficult. Even though he did the same things the electricians did, he did not have the certificate to show what he knew. I'm not sure they wanted to give up that quilt. going to step out of order for a minute. John Dixon. John, we don't have your bio. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience while we're here? I said, would you like to share anything about your experience with the audience?
I joined the United States Naval Reserve in Odessa, Texas in '64. And from there I went to Electronics A School, Naval School Command at Treasure Island at or near San Francisco. And in 1965, I went into the active bits for the U.S. Navy. And in '68, I got out and came back to Texas and stayed in Texas for the additional 3 years to make up the 7-year composite.
Thank you. Joe Hayes. Joe served in the United States Marine Corps from 1996 to 2000 and 2001 to 2002. He served as part of the Marine Security Force at the White House and in the 2nd Marine Division's 2nd Reconnaissance Battalion. Following the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, he volunteered to return to active duty and was assigned to Marine Corps Base Quantico with the Security Battalion. After exiting the military, Joe served as a military contractor and government civilian within the Department of Homeland Security. August of 2004, he moved to Kentucky and joined the Paducah Police Department. William Hendrickson. William enlisted into the Army in December 2005 as a military police officer and attended basic and advanced training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. He served on active duty with the Kentucky National Guard for over 14 years. William was deployed to Iraq in 2007 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and again in 2010 in support of Operation New Dawn. William's transitioning from military life to becoming a police officer was very easy. The structure of the police department is very similar to that of the military. He also enjoys serving the citizens of Paducah and looks forward to many more years of service with the greatest city and department that one could ask for. Jimmy Hilton. Jimmy Hilton served in the United States Army from 1997 to 1999. His job was 88 MOI. You got me, Jimmy. I don't know what that is. Tell me. Okay. He was a truck driver and hauled supplies and equipment across the post and to their training grounds. If he wasn't driving, he was changing tires on the trucks and trailers. His transition to civilian life was pretty easy. Jimmy had a good group of friends who helped him. Matthew Hop. Is Matthew here? Hillary Hunt. Mr. Hunt was in the United States Army 1967 to 1969. Is there any other information you'd like to share with us, Mr. Hunt?
I was drafted in 1967, sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, made chief of the orthopedic service there, where I took care of many wounded Vietnam personnel. Also, 26,000 man basic training unit and all their dependents. And I had married and had 5 kids of my own. The day I finished basic training, Fort Sam Houston, I was told by the commanding general I'd be going to Vietnam a year from that day, but I never did go, so I was grateful for that. I was proud to serve my country.
James Jernigan. You can come right on up with him. Mr. Jernigan served in the United States Army 1966 to 1969. Mr. Jernigan, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your service? Mrs. Jernigan, would you like to speak for him?
I
It'd
will.
be lovely.
That is a Vietnam veteran. He has 12 medals from Vietnam. His highest medal is a Silver Star. He saved several men in a tank when he was fighting on the front lines in Vietnam. That's where he got his Silver Star. He's highly decorated. He has wrote a book. It's called Just a Sharecropper's Son. It's on Amazon, and we have sold a lot of them. And he's having a little problem with his memories right now, just from PTSD. And so he's highly decorated, honored.
Thank you. He wants it. Daniel Kimball. Is Mr. Kimball present? Okay. Robert Herndon. Mr. Herndon, would you like to share some information with us about your service?
Yeah. I joined the Army in 1984, was until 2005. I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for basic training and AIT and everything else. There for 18 long weeks. I hate that place with a passion. So I 3 times in my career for advanced basic training, all this stuff, advanced training, and when I went to advanced course, all that stuff. Still hate the place. But in all my years, the only thing I can remember about my service that I absolutely loved was meeting and marrying my wife of 35 years and my 2 children. I owe all my success in the military to them, because I never would have made any second of it without them. And that's, like I said, that's the only reason I stayed doing what I did, because I wanted to quit when I had 10 years in. She told me if I quit, she'd kill me. That's the thing I ever feared my whole 20, almost 22 years of service. It was the fact that she told me if I quit, she'd kill me. So that's the only reason I did what I did, because I feared that more than I feared anything else.
You did it well. Thank you. Did we determine Mr. Kimball is or is not? Fred Leatherman. Oh, okay. Mr. Leatherman is currently in the hospital, and they're going to bring his quilt to him when the ceremony is finished. Larry Nunn. Let me see if I can advance this. Larry Nunn. He is not here. Wesley Orzine. Wesley served in the United States Marine Corps from 1994 to 2000. He served as infantry and military police. Wesley stated that his military experience made his transition to civilian life and law enforcement easier due to the similarities in both job functions and conformity to regulations. Blake Quinn. Blake was trained as a forward observer that called and adjusted artillery fire in the Army National Guard. He was deployed to Iraq from 2004 to 2005 and Afghanistan 2008-2009. While in Afghanistan, he trained and mentored the Afghan National Police. This is the job he is most proud of. He was able to provide tools needed for Afghanistan to grow and thrive on its own. He was able to see those he mentored go from untrained people from everyday walks of life to men who were able to provide security for their community and country. Blake's transition to civilian life was unique in that because he served in the Army National Guard, he was already active in civilian life. Brian states, "My time in the military changed my outlook on the world around me and presented opportunities that helped me succeed in areas others may not. Through my experience in the military, I learned how to overcome adversity, readily accept challenges, and be a valued team member. Using the skills and abilities learned in the military, I was better prepared to transition to my work in law enforcement." Will Shelby? Is Mr. Shelby with us? Troy Turner. Kevin Wilson. Kevin departed for basic training in the United States Air Force on June 3, 1998 in San Antonio, Texas. Upon completion of basic training, he graduated from the Security Forces Academy. During the next several years, he spent time in Wyoming, Germany, Washington, South Korea, Missouri, and Texas, performing tasks in bot security and law enforcement. In addition to these locations, Kevin also completed 2 tours in Iraq during Iraqi Freedom and France in support of Operation Joint Forge. He completed his career retiring as a Master Sergeant while assigned to the Security Forces Center headquarters in Public Services. His transition to civilian life was challenging, but due to the culture of policing, there are many similarities making the transition customary. Henry Yates. You can come with him if you need. It's okay. All right. Mr. Yates served in the United States Army 1951 to 55 and National Guard from 55 to 1980. Mr. Yates, is there anything you'd like to share about your service?
Also, I was in the Air Force. But I brought somebody couldn't be here today. Okay. This is my great-grandfather. He didn't get a blanket. He was in the Civil War in the Battle of Atlanta. And he got the Gold Medal of Honor. And some people, he's interned in just across the river in Illinois. And the beautiful part about it was that some of you may know my nephew, Ted Pace, is a pretty well-known guy around Paducah, and we worked with the War Department, and they still have the order where he got this Gold Medal of Honor. And so he returned to Illinois, farmer, and he was in the infantry all right, in the but his was a volunteer infantry. He was never called in by the War Department, but in Illinois, they formed their own battalion of volunteer infantry. He was one of them, and that's how they got down to Atlanta. And I don't know of anybody else that had the Gold Medal of Honor here in Western Kentucky. If you want to see this, you're welcome to it. And we had a good contact with the War Department. They still have the order. And then I tell people, well, it was a real nice thing they did for my grandfather. They gave him a military pension in 1890, $10 a month. I said, well, maybe then that may be like $30, $40 now. When we went over there, his phone, you couldn't even read it. But myself and Ted Pace, my nephew, we talked to a congressman first, and we explained our displeasure that a man with a Gold Medal of Honor couldn't even read what was on his stone. Now, we can now. It's at, what's the name of that little place over there? It's near Metropolis. Diana, just off of the 51 interstate, not too far away. But you can see it now. And some of the guys that were like you and me and veterans, they go out there, and some of them got a little bit irritated that you couldn't even read his name or what he did do, but he can now. That's exactly what I wanted when I seen the other one. You kiss me if you like.
We don't need to bring entertainment. We bring the veterans. They bring entertainment. Each quilt is given a name to signify its individuality. There are no other quilts like yours. And today we will inscribe your name on your quilt so that it can let future generations in your family know what you have done for your country. Gentlemen, thank you for your service and welcome home.
Scotland.